Test, test.
Sound wow. Welcome.
Silky smooth.
That's right.
My voice
My gosh.
always sounds so much better on this microphone with headphones.
All right. What do you know what episode we are?
I think 32, but we were wrong last
32.
time. So
Nice.
Were we?
yeah, I think we were calling, Ryan was making fun of me. We were both calling it episode 32 and it was 31. So I think this is 32, but
Yeah.
you know, we didn't get in trouble with anybody other than Ryan last time, so we can be wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's your show. You can say what you
Yeah,
want.
exactly.
That's exactly right.
Let's just start making up numbers from
Yeah.
now.
Episode 107. Welcome, everybody. Kevin's making his normal social media post, making the story post. So
Gotcha.
I'll go ahead and introduce. So sitting over here next to me is a friend of mine and now friend of Kevin's, Jayson Dedmon, who is a black belt jiu-jitsu instructor that owns Black Flag Bjj in Mustang.
Absolutely.
Got to roll with you the other day. Don't recommend unless you want to lose. Just kidding. No, he was awesome. But you and I had a decently long conversation after I came down to Black Flag and got to hang out with you for a little bit. And man, I know you're gonna feel like I'm gassing you up here, but that legitimately might have been one of the most impactful conversations that in recent memory that I've had. Talking to you kind of about the situation in your life over the last year. Definitely gave me some perspective on, I don't even know, man, like how to describe it. Like it's pretty awe-inspiring in general, but it's like, man, I went home and hugged my fiance a little tighter and, was really thankful. And man, just, we don't have to dive into the story just yet, because I'm sure it will be a big part of the podcast. But man, it was one of those things when, after having that conversation with you, like I told you when we were texting today, I have legitimately thought about that conversation probably 20 times. And my only thought, like after that and since that, was like, man, like it's not like we have some massive viewer base, but if I've thought about it as much as I have, like, your ability to impact people with your story is massive. And I think just having even the platform that we have, like whatever size it is, to just get you on here to kind of talk about it, because it truly is an incredible story. A tough story for sure, but an incredible story nonetheless.
Well, you're too kind. I appreciate it. It is a tough story. And when you go through something like that, it does change it's a paradigm shift altogether. It changes your perspective about everything. And if it's impactful for even one person, then I can't say I'm glad I went through it, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, I can tell you it impacted me, man. And if I'm your one person, then I'm happy. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be it. Cause seriously, man, it is something pretty crazy. So, we're kind of teasing it quite a bit now, but, do you want to kind of start out kind of at least giving us a little background about yourself and,
sure.
kind of what's led you up to this last year?
Oh yeah. So, I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu about 20 years ago down in Tuttle at Apex Fitness and Martial Arts under Scott Landis. Me and a bunch of guys that were there, just through life, had kind of branched north and wound up here in Yukon. I was training with Steve and Chase Aragi and Terry Gilchrist and a bunch of the guys that have Yukon Martial Arts right next door over here. Matter of fact, I popped in and said hello to them on the way in because, they're my brothers.
Yeah. Right.
But I fell in love with it. I remember my first night on the mat. I'm a former wrestler, and I was 6'2" and 230 pounds, and have boxed and done taekwondo and wrestling, and felt like I had a pretty well-rounded fight game as far as that goes for the most part. And
for anybody who can't tell, by the way, sorry to cut you off, Jayson is fucking jacked. So, like, freaky jacked. So, and this is him, like, slim and trim.
Yeah, I'm cut way down right now.
Yeah, way down. So, he's like a freak. So, that's, I think, important for anybody maybe just listening. It's like 6'2", 230 and like 2% body fat.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story in and of itself, because when my daughter was born, we kind of got into the fact that I had a daughter. When she was born, I developed septic ulcers over a ton of life stress. And I went almost a year not being able to hold down a meal.
Dang.
And I was at 132 pounds at the lowest. And my doctor looked me in the eye and said, I can't tell you that you're going to die 6 months from now. But what I can tell you is that 6 months from now, the damage will be done. And this will be what kills you.
Mm.
I'm sorry, you said 130?
132
At
pounds.
6'2".
At 6'2".
Holy moly.
I had 3 ulcers and one had gone completely perforated the stomach lining. And every time I would eat a meal, my stomach would start to digest itself and I would throw the food up.
Yeah.
And so they put me on sleep aids and stuff to help get my sleep cycle back. And then a pill that I had to take 4 times a day to suppress stomach acid when I ate. And so the fun part about that was everything I ate came out looking exactly the way it went down.
No,
So salads were
no.
fucking gnarly.
Oh, no.
But after about 4 months, it healed and I started putting some weight back on. And kind of the cliche New Year's resolution or jump back in the gym and started on protein and started really trying to reclaim my health. And I also was, struggling pretty bad with anxiety and depression.
Sure.
And I got into lifting and putting on some weight. And Scott was just, hey man, you used to wrestle, you're getting pretty strong. You should come in and train, and I kept kind of blowing him off.
Yeah. That's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through that phase for a little bit with jiu-jitsu before they try it.
Yeah, maybe someday kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
And I remember the first night that I walked in there, Scott introduces me to this kind of short, stocky 15-year-old green belt. Garrick Landis, his son. And he says to Garrick, he says, it's Jason's first night. Take it easy on him. And I kind of laughed, just like I did now. I mean, I still laugh thinking about it. And I looked at Scott and I'm like, hey man, I'm going to hurt your kid. Don't.
Right.
and Garrick just tapped me in the chest and winked at me. And he's like, it's going to be okay, buddy. And for 45 minutes straight, he beat me like I stole from him. I was a rented drum for him. I had no answers. And it was funny because by the time I left, I was kind of almost mad. I was like embarrassed and humiliated and a little bit pissed off. And I'm like, they fucking tricked me. And I got all the way home and I'm in the shower and I'm like, they didn't trick me. I was a smart ass. I deserved that beating.
Yeah.
And then I got out of the shower and I just knew I had to know.
Yeah.
I had to know what he did to me, everything that he did. And so I trained there religiously for a while. I mean, morning, night, I was in there in the weights. I was in there for the striking and the Muay Thai with Chuy Valdiva and all the grappling with Scott and Garrick and the wrestling with Richard. I mean, I was just in there all the time for a while. And then I got married and, more kids came and life started getting in the way. And we wound up moving to Yukon and getting back to Tuttle to train just kind of became a thing. And I couldn't make it down there. And Steve Iragi messaged me and he was like, hey man, we've got a school right here in Yukon. And I kind of had that like old school loyalty, like, no, I train at Apex.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And he was like, no, I mean, we're right around the corner from your house. And if you're not getting to train, just stop in.
Yeah.
And I showed up and it was in a tiny little room about, I want to say it was like 12 by 20, if that. I mean, a tiny little room. And they had just gotten the Jean Jacques banner and I came in and rolled with the guys and I was like, this is a pretty good group, and it was literally like I could pick my son up and be there. Like I could be there every day.
Yeah.
And I've always loved Steve and Chase and all of those guys. So it was a pretty easy switch for me.
Sure.
But then I met Jean Jacques. And the first time I met Jean Jacques, he asked me about my wife. He asked me about my kids. And the next time I met Jean Jacques, he remembered not just that I had a wife and kids, but their names.
Wow.
And I was so enamored at his ability to recall not just who I was, but who my family was. He cared deeply about the students and their students that he had under him.
Sure. And for anybody, just not to cut you off, but for anybody who doesn't know, Jean Jacques Machado is world renowned, one of the
Oh, yeah.
greatest jujitsu, not just practitioners, but coaches, has schools all over the world that, you know, are from his lineage, and somebody who it's like, you know, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's like you meet C-Bum, and then he sees you 2 years later, and he's telling you, "Oh, how's, you know, your naming
Yeah.
your wife
That's
and
a
kids by name."
Crazy ability.
Yeah.
I think it will help, and I should probably let you get like Thomas knows, but I don't know much at all about jujitsu
Oh,
or
okay.
martial arts. So, and I think probably a lot of our viewers don't
Well,
either. So,
to put it in perspective, Jean Jacques Machado is one of the most decorated black belts of all times.
Mm.
He's a coral belt, and has, I think it's 1,300. Don't quote me on
Yeah.
that, but I think it's 1,300 affiliate academies under him worldwide.
wow.
So you're talking about a literal superstar. And
Yeah.
here I was at the time, just a white belt.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
like
He sees 13,000 of you a year.
literally at
Yeah.
least.
Right.
And he remembered my name, he remembered my wife's name, he remembered my kids' names. He asked me if they were training, you know, he was very interested in my life. And I knew at that moment I was going to be training under Jean Jacques Machado for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like no matter what that took. And I'm very proud of the fact that every promotion that I have ever received has been signed off on and granted to me via Jean Jacques Machado
Mm.
through, you know, obviously Steve and Chase were the affiliates at the time,
Sure.
and it was through their school and their academy. But I'm very proud of the fact that every promotion I've ever received, from white to black,
That's cool.
came from Jean Jacques.
That's
Mm.
cool.
And it meant a lot to me for that to
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely.
So, you know, kind of fast forward a little bit, I ended up buying the school from Steve and Chase.
Yeah.
And I owned it for a few years. And we had a lot of things go on in our life at that point in time. And I had to make a very difficult decision to sell the school.
Yeah.
When I sold the school, I for a lot of reasons, I kind of became like a homeless brown belt. I really
Mhm.
didn't have some place to train regularly. I had some places that were like, "Hey, man, you're always welcome here,"
Yeah.
but I'm Jean Jacques Machado,
Yeah,
like
sure.
no matter what. And so I just kind of rambled around and trained everywhere that I could. And I really wanted to keep my son's training, but I went back to construction and I was gone all the time. And it was very difficult for them to go and train when it had always been an us thing.
Mm.
Mhm.
And they had, I mean, you know, my oldest boy, he won his first like samurai sword at 8 years old. He won the Naga
Mhm.
Worlds thing. And, you know, he's always just been a competitor. And it was something that we always did together. And I was always his coach. And neither of them could really get into martial arts if I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so last year, you know, my wife and I had a conversation in 2020. We put mats in the garage and just kind of trained through the pandemic, and we had started up my construction company, and through the pandemic and all of that, we managed to build this company from, you know, I think in 2020 we went like $40,000 in revenue or something. It was nothing. And then in 2021, it was a little over $1 million.
Wow.
Mm.
And in 2022, I think we hit 2 million for the first time.
Yeah.
Or maybe, no, we're in 23.
Mm.
It's something. Anyway,
Sure.
we were at almost 2 million in 21. 22, we took a pretty big step backwards. That's kind of how that worked out. But in the midst of all that, you know, as teenagers do, my oldest boy was going through some things. He was not following the path. And I saw him.
Like we all do at times.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
16-year-old boys, you know,
Yeah.
and, there's a lot to that story too, you know, family turmoil and
Sure.
split family and all that good stuff. But I started seeing some of that starting to present in my youngest. And well, not my youngest, my middle son. We have a 2-year-old now, but I digress. I started seeing some of that present in him, and I told my wife, I said, we've got to find a way back to this.
Yeah.
And I know that means some sacrifices. And she was like, I'm in, whatever it takes. And then so in November of 22, a spot just kind of, I think I told her that in September. In November, a spot just came open, and it
Mhm.
was a spot that we had always talked about. We would love to have a school there. Like its proximity to neighborhoods and elementary schools, and the facility itself,
That's perfect.
it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
And it came available at a lease point that, like, I just could not pass it up.
Yeah.
And so we leased it right then. We didn't even know if we would, have an affiliation, if Jean
Yeah.
Jacques would, split the affiliation, allow us in the same. We didn't know.
Sure.
And so we leased the spot, and I just went to work trying to get it ready to have a class in.
Yeah.
And it took us November, December, and half of January, working around the clock, man, fighting city codes and all that stuff, painting floors and building walls.
Yeah. We've done a thing or two with that.
Couple of times, yeah.
Right? Well, man, so many things just kind of happened serendipitously that we were able to open up as day one, a Jean Jacques Machado affiliate. And that was super gracious of the entire affiliation. I can't even begin to speak about my gratitude for the affiliation and the way that they supported us in opening up. I mean, Eric Acha, who is a third degree under Jean Jacques down in Dallas now, he moved, sold his home in California and opened a school in DFW. And he drove up the weekend we opened and had a seminar for free, like just to
Right.
get something going on in the
Sure.
school. And we legitimately would not be where we're at now if it wasn't for the affiliation. No matter if we didn't overcome what we've overcome, we would not be in this position if it wasn't for the affiliation that we're part of. So that's January 15th. Cool deal. We got started, first classes. Fast forward to February, and I'm taking my sons to their first kind of competition. It's kind of like we didn't take a team. We didn't take anybody with us. We're too young of a school to really have any
Sure.
competitors. It was just us. And it was just us kind of dipping our toes back into competition. And I was working my ass off because I wanted to go to Masters Worlds as a brown belt, one time, and really do my very best. And
Yeah.
I will tell you that before I got ill, I was in the absolute best shape I had ever been in my life. And when I say that, I mean it's I don't mean to sound grandiose, but it was otherworldly.
Yeah.
I was 260 pounds, and I was taping out at about 12% body fat on a regular basis. I PR'd and bench at 535. I had never flat benched that much. I benched 535, and then the same week I PR'd my squat at 705, and then I PR'd a 640 deadlift, and this was all mid February.
You're a scary human that even if you don't know jujitsu.
Yeah, I was that, and I was also a brown belt, and I felt like a pretty salty brown belt.
Yeah.
I could run a 5-minute mile. I could do it once. I couldn't do it twice. I could do it once
Still.
And I was trying to do that 3 times a week, and I was grappling
That's
a minimum
crazy.
of 45 minutes a day. And I really felt dialed in for the first time in a long time.
That is that is like freak stuff. Like that strong, that big, that heavy, that lean, and like that endurance.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, I was something else. I've got some pictures back in the drafts, of me prior to all of this, and it's kind of surreal to look at.
Yeah.
But that's nevertheless, things come our way. And at the end of February, we went down to Naga in Dallas. And on the way down there, I just didn't feel well. I can't really explain it much more than that. We'd had a really hard training session the night before, and I just kind of chalked it up to being maybe dehydrated or, maybe having a little bit of creatinine dump or something, and I just didn't feel well. And we got there, we got the boys weighed in the night before. We get to the hotel and we have dinner and we get to the hotel room and I just told my wife, I need to lay down. And I went to the bathroom and my urine was red, like bright red.
Hmm.
And I told my wife, I said, I think when we get home, I need to go to the emergency room. I've got blood in my urine and this is not good. The next morning, we're at competition. I've coached my boys through hundreds of matches at this point, and I just couldn't think fast enough to coach them through what they were going through. My brain just wouldn't work. And I had a headache that I couldn't explain. And I ended up in a corner, kind of covering my eyes, waiting for their match, going out and coaching. I got up and went to the restroom, and now my urine was like dark, dark, dark brown, like Coca-Cola.
Ooh.
And I knew that whatever was happening was very serious.
Yeah.
On the way home, I pulled up to a stoplight. We were pulling over for gas, and I pulled up to a stoplight. And as the car came to a stop, I just passed out, just completely out.
And you were driving?
I was driving, and my wife had to wake me up, and I, we went into the gas station and got gas, and I told her, "You're driving home."
Sure.
I never I always drive. It's kind of I don't know. It's
Yeah,
a thing.
right.
I just drive. And so I let her drive. But while I was in the gas station, I went to the bathroom again in the same color urine. I took a video of my urine stream and sent it to a very good friend of mine and was like, "Hey man, I'm pretty sick. I don't know what this is."
Yeah,
And,
right.
by the time I got home, he hit me back and he's like, "Yo, that really looks like rhabdo."
Yeah.
And yeah, have you been training really hard? And I was like, "I've been training really hard." He said, "I think you have rhabdo." And I said, "Well, okay." And I just powered down some what is it? The Pedialyte.
Yeah, like some electrolyte
Yeah,
product.
I just tried. Hey man, if this is mild or whatever, maybe I can just self treat.
Sure.
And the next morning, I was in the emergency room, and they diagnosed me with rhabdomyolysis, but they sent me home, and they gave me 3 units of IV, and sent me home, and then I still it was just rapidly declining still. So Monday I go to it was OU Medical, and they run a COVID swab and tell me I had COVID. And I was like, "Well, I was just at the hospital yesterday and they did not say that." And they're, "Well, that's what it came back positive." I was like, "Okay, well, it's just COVID, drink a lot of fluids, go to bed." So they send me home again. Cool. The next day or that night, I lose the ability to urinate. I'm trying to pee. My bladder hurts. It hurts bad. And I cannot urinate. And I toughed it out through the night. My wife wakes up the next morning. I'm like, "Hey, we got to go back to the hospital. I can't pee." So we go to Mercy. They catheter me, drain my bladder, send me home with a cath, and tell me, come back in a few days and get it out. It's not COVID, by the way. You test negative for COVID. You have what we believe is human metapneumovirus. And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah, right.
And they're like, "We don't know." Go home.
Yeah, right. You're fine.
Yeah, okay. So I'm coming back in the house from that trip to the emergency room, and I mean sick. Everything hurts. I've got a headache that I can't even put into words for you guys. And as I'm walking up towards our bed, I go into the bedroom, and as I cross into the bedroom, it was like somebody just flipped a switch and my legs quit working. Just instantly gone. I didn't have legs.
Gosh, that's getting scary.
Yeah, no. I crawled into bed, and I was convinced at that point in time that I was going to die in my bed. I was not going to.
How do you not think that?
I mean, it was
the hospital won't fucking take me,
right?
And I keep going. What do I do?
Right. I've got a catheter hanging out of me, and my legs don't walk. I literally pulled myself into my bed, with my arms. And the next day, I woke up, and I couldn't remember my name. I didn't know much of anything. My wife wakes me up, and there's paramedics, and they're like they can't get my big ass out of the house, so they wheel they wheel an office chair in there and stuff me in an office chair and wheel me out of my bedroom so that they can get me onto a gurney and into an ambulance. And back to Mercy we go, and I'm telling my wife, hey, when we get there, you need to tell them that I have reduced cognitive function. You need to tell them that my legs don't work. You need to tell them that I can't see. Like, these are the things that you need to make sure you tell them, because I don't know if I'm going to be conscious.
Yeah.
And like they were asking me all these questions and I couldn't answer. Like I just could not answer. And we get back to Mercy, and they put me almost immediately into an MRI. They're not giving me anything for pain. I don't know what the fuck they thought I was trying to do, like if I was faking or what, but they stuffed me into an MRI and they stick me in this MRI for 3 hours. They ran 3 hours worth of MRIs on me the first day, and then put me back in the ER. And the next thing I know is they're telling me I'm being admitted to the neurological wing. And that's it. That's all they told me. And I have no answers about anything. I can barely keep my eyes open. And that is the last conversation I remember. I woke up about 5 days later. And when I came to, I had vague recollections of some pretty hairy events while I was in that vegetative coma state. And I had no use of any of my limbs. My legs and arms were completely flaccid with the exception of my right hand.
Ooh.
And I finally start to get some answers. They don't know what caused this. They can't tell me why I'm in this state, but I do have a lot of lesions and inflammation on my cerebellum and spinal cord. And so this has caused demyelination of the nerves, and it's going to take me a long time to be able to use my arms and legs again. Is what, that was the overall, that was kind of the synapses there.
I just can't and I don't mean, because again, what is the feeling of, because obviously I have no fucking clue.
Same.
But what is the feeling of like waking up and not being able to move your arms and legs besides your right arm? Besides terrifying, I'm sure.
Despair.
Yeah.
Despair is the word that I would come in. It was one of these moments where it was like everything's different.
Well, because like thinking leading up to the story, you're talking benching 500 pounds, squatting, running 5-minute miles, competing at Worlds, brown belt, like all of these things. Like you have to wake up and just think like, okay, well, like I guess that's
out the window.
Yeah,
that's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And in the moment that I was in, there was like this two sides of me. There was like this despair and realizing that all of that was no longer a thing, and then looking over and seeing my wife that had sat next to my bed for the last 5 days and being unbelievably grateful to have made it through, and they were very shocked that I survived. They were the reason that I lost the ability to urinate was because the part of my brain that was affected is the part of the brain that controls the internal organs and your breath. And so I had hiccups, like these hiccups that would not stop for 30 days. I was in the hospital for the entirety of the month of March. My God. And I had hiccups the whole time. I mean, you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't do anything.
No.
And what would happen to me is I would hiccup and my diaphragm would contract, and my brain didn't have the ability to send the signal to relax. And so I would be stuck, suffocating. And then they would be able to get me to breathe again.
Did the hiccups get painful as?
Oh yeah, they hurt like hell.
I was going to say, I've never had hiccups for more than 10 minutes.
Like imagine getting caught in the middle of a hiccup, like,
and you can't exhale.
And you can't do.
Yeah, it was terrifying. But through all of, I had some pretty harrowing, we kind of, I don't want to get into all the afterlife vision type of stuff that I
Mm.
saw, but I had some pretty harrowing experiences while I was unconscious, and to have woken up and see my wife and my
Mm.
kids, and
Mhm.
I I was overwhelmed with gratitude. And so, like, on the one hand, like, I recognized that the me that existed before this event was gone,
Mhm.
but I also recognized that I was extremely fortunate. And it was a very, very strange kind of duality to exist in for that time.
Mhm.
Um, while they were trying to figure out, what the hell happened to me, they took lumbar taps and biopsies and MRIs and CT scans and all of these crazy tests. They found a mass. And at first they were telling me this doesn't check out. This isn't, related. It's not anything. We think it's, probably just some former trauma. You've lived a combat sports life for 20 years,
Yeah.
probably something. Um, but when they moved me from the neurological wing over to the rehabilitation hospital to kind of start teaching me how to walk again, they informed me that this was indeed cancer in my right hip.
Mm.
So now we're nearing the end of the month of March. I get out of the hospital on March 31st. I cannot walk.
Let's be clear. This is March 31st of this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this year.
That's like, is that even 6 months ago? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's what, 6, 7 months ago?
Yeah.
7 months ago.
And literally this all took place, right at a month after opening our school. So, you know, I'm in the midst of losing a multi-million dollar construction company, and all of my assets are gone. And
Mm.
I don't know if the school's going to be there when I get out of all this. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Gosh.
right.
By the way, huge, huge shout out to Chase Iragi and to my son Hayden for holding it down and running all of the classes while I was sick, because
I remember that. I remember it happening.
yeah, they kept it all going together. And our school would not exist if it was not for
Yeah.
their efforts.
Because we hadn't met yet at that point, and I remember just kind of hearing through the grapevine that like Jason's sick and nobody knows what the hell's
Right.
going on, and like, and we're all just like, and I knew who you were, and I'm like, Jay, like, are we sure? Like, we talking about the same guy?
A lot of
Like,
people.
guy is like an animal. Like, he's not somebody. And I remember like hearing all about that, and and I've known Chase for a while, and I remember seeing all the different people kind of like helping and stepping
Right.
up, and I remember
Oh
him
man, it was beautiful.
like coming and him coaching classes down there, and it's like, dude, that's so cool.
It speaks volumes for the community itself.
Yeah.
So
That's one thing that I can't even. I've been a part of a lot of things in my life. I've been in all different walks of life, and you can't find the kind of people that you find in the jiu-jitsu community
Yeah.
anywhere else. I mean, the owners at Conquest, the school that I formerly owned, they threw a big benefit open
Mhm.
mat for me. We just got so much support out of the entire
Yeah.
community. There were jujitsu people dropping off food at my house while I was in the hospital so that my wife didn't have to worry about feeding our kids. Like,
Mm.
it was, the outpouring was so humbling. I'm beyond grateful. But anyway, we get back and I get out of the hospital, and this is now early April, and I can't walk. I'm using a walker to just try to force my legs to work. And Jay Zabalos, Eric Armstrong, Ron Dupuy, a bunch of black belts of the Jean Jacques Machado lineage all came together to put a seminar on in our schools to raise funds. They came out on their own dime, like bought their own plane tickets, everything. And for them to have shown us that kind of love was next level. I mean, it was incredible. Jean Jacques autographed a couple gis and sent them out here for us to auction off to raise money for the school and for the family and to keep us going. And um, at that seminar, at my school on a Friday night, uh, I came to the edge of the mat with a walker and walked my way down the wall to bow everybody in, and then walked my way back and sat on the edge of the mat during instruction and watched all of these people, in my school that I really couldn't even do much in at the time. And then at the end of the night when we were all bowing out, um, Jay, who I really love like a brother, he is just an amazing human. Um, s- just absolutely floored me and is giving a speech and says, the road to black belt's a long one, and just turns and looks at me and says, and you're there, and
Mm.
presents me with my black belt. Um, and it was a very emotional
Oh,
moment.
I can imagine.
Mm.
I can't imagine actually.
It was, I don't even know how to describe a moment like that. But I was promoted to black belt while I still couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
And I had all of the imposter syndrome thoughts of you don't
Mm.
deserve this. This is a charity thing. And then I had to remind myself they don't do that in this organization,
Right,
in this
right.
community. So
Yeah, no, they sure don't.
that's not a thing.
They sure don't. They'll hold it if
Yeah,
you look wrong.
exactly. So it was cool. It was a very cool moment. Then I went through, you know, we started in May. I went through daily radiation because the the cancer tumor that I had, they said it's kind of a two-edged sword because it grows fast and grows extremely fast, but it dies fast too if you get
Mm.
it on it early. And had they not been looking for what made me sick in the first place, they probably would not have found this for another
Oh,
10 years,
Wow.
and
yeah.
it would have been far too late.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah, you telling a story about you pissing Coca-Cola doesn't sound like you're a guy to hop to the doctor too quick, at least back then.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
I still am more likely to tape it up and go,
Yeah.
But, so we, uh, we went through daily radiation, and I guess I didn't realize how intensive daily radiation
Mm.
really was, at the time. I just kinda was like, "Well, this is what we gotta do, so this is what we do."
Yeah.
But I was just too wiped out to try to do really anything. I couldn't do any PT. I couldn't do much of anything. I would come to the school and crawl my ass out on the mat and teach a lesson and do my, level best to keep everything going, but
Yeah,
I was
sure.
not, I was not capable of much.
And coming from a guy that trained so hard, he gave himself potentially rhabdo, sounds like.
Yeah,
So.
right.
So, that was 6 weeks. So now we're in mid-June and I finally am done and I got to ring the bell and we declared it in remission and I'm yay, I made it. Oh,
Mm.
Casper back there.
That was a loud bang.
So I got to ring the bell and I'm in remission and now I can really start trying to get back to me, at least that was the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
And in July, I found a TikTok page of all things of a guy that was doing he, he trains combat sports athletes, but he also works with neurological injuries. And I was
Hmm.
like, man, this is like
Yeah.
right up my alley. I'm gonna really watch everything this guy has to watch. And so
Mhm.
like one night when I couldn't sleep and I was sitting in my recliner with heating pads and ice packs, trying to,
Yeah.
just trying to get through all of it, I watched every video that I could. I mean, anything that even remotely looked applicable. And the one that kind of got my attention the most, he did these things called wrestler squats, and he would load a barbell and stand in a squat rack, and then he would take a wrestling stance, and instead of like driving forward for a shot or whatever, he would just change elevations, and then rock back to the back leg and come back up, and then change elevations back on the back leg and rock back to the front leg and then come up. So it was like these like teardrop shaped squat, and then
Yeah.
switch legs and do it the other way. And so I was like, well, fuck it.
Yeah,
Let me
I can
try
do that,
this.
right, yeah.
So I put on a squat belt and had my wife hold my waist and walked into got under the barbell, and I did it, and it was ugly. It was definitely not coordinated, but I got under there and I started doing it. 48 hours later, and I'm not kidding, 48 hours after I did that first set of exercises, I went to get up out of my recliner and I just stood up, like without like a walker or holding on to anything, or I couldn't really run or do anything, but
Yeah.
I just stood up for the first time. And I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And so then I started doing all of the other exercise
Yeah.
things that I had watched on this page. And the idea was that, by forcing your brain to cross communicate hemispheres in the middle of a lift, you rewired neural pathways and you rebuilt new neural pathways. And so it might make your reaction times faster. It might give you better stability. I started doing this, and I did it in every lift. Guys, when I got out of the hospital, keep in mind, I weighed 260 pounds when I got sick. When I got out of the hospital, I weighed 209 pounds. I started doing this in every lift. I couldn't lift a barbell over my head. So I would get on machines or on the Smith machine, and do a shoulder press. And I would press with my right arm, take the weight with my left arm, lower it down, press with my left arm, take the weight with my right arm, lower it down. And people are looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I'm like, hey man, don't worry about me.
Yeah, right.
Leg extensions, I would leg extend out with my right leg, take the weight with my left leg, lower it down, leg extend with my left leg, take the weight with my right leg, lower it down. And it was very awkward to do. It was very awkward to do with any weight. I was very weakened, but with any weight, it was very, very awkward. And after a while, it started getting easier, easier and easier and easier. And I was rolling with one of my white belts one day, and I just, in natural kind of flow state, came up onto my feet and turned the corner and took his hips, and I realized I had wrestled again. I was wrestling.
Yeah.
And
I have to imagine this is building in like confidence and hope and like,
oh man, yeah. You start to feel these things coming back, and I'm getting stronger, and I'm getting, when I went to my neurologist appointment, she was asking me, how's the neuropathy? Where's your walker? How come you're not using your walker? And I was like, well, I'm feeling pretty good. And they had these tests that they would put me through, and one of them was a heel toe, walk in a straight line, kind of like a roadside sobriety thing. And I failed it every time.
Yeah.
And so this time I just go and I do it. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? And so I told her, I've been doing jujitsu and I've been lifting this way. And she was blown away. And then I just told her, I was like, yeah, I can even do a judo back step. And I showed her, and she was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first time I realized that I was way ahead of the curve on this thing. So here we are now, closing in on a year of being open. January 15th of next year will be our 1 year anniversary. The school is doing great. We are actually going to cap memberships probably next month and start putting people on a wait list.
Yeah.
My sons are competing monthly and just killing it. And I had one of my girls that wrestles. She came and went and competed with an injured shoulder, and then I had to tape her arm back together because she got armbarred, belly down armbarred, and refused to tap. And she winds up going and winning a few matches and podium, and went on the podium in a division she probably shouldn't have. And I just felt like so inspired that I've decided I would jump out and take the competition. So on November 18th, I'm going down to Dallas to compete for the first time as a black belt, and the first time since learning how to walk again.
At what point, like this year, were you able to stand up on your own for that first time after you did that exercise?
That was in July.
July.
Yeah.
So just like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And
literally.
you're already signed up to go compete again.
Yeah. I probably being a little bit ambitious, but
But I feel like ambition is what's got you to where you are.
True.
100%. What are you going to do? Quit?
Yeah,
You know?
right. Still got a whole life to live.
That's right. I got boys to raise.
Yeah.
My daughter is already in college, but I still got to scare those ones that are shooting.
Yeah.
Can't go quietly into the night. You know what I mean?
Reasons bigger than yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the thing, is I was telling him, and I was like kind of just giving, little quick synapse, like ideas of like the story in general. And I was like, and dude, I just fucking rolled with him. And he's like, well, how was the roll? And I was like, well, like, yeah, I got my ass kicked by a dude who just learned how to walk again. So like, I don't feel great, but his story's awesome.
Did they ever figure out what caused you to get to the point where you weren't where you were pretty much paralyzed? Did they figure out what that caused that in the first place?
No. So they never figured out what the underlying illness was. They called it a viral encephalitis with an unknown viral agent. That was the actual diagnosis that's in my medical chart. Basically, my neurologist said, we don't fucking know.
Yeah, it's very general, like what they diagnosed you with.
Yeah.
So,
but I go back to the whole thing over and over again. And at the end of the day, had I not gone through that, they would not have found the cancer, and I wouldn't have the story that I have. And
well, one of the things that, and I even mentioned when we were kind of talking about this the first time, and I want to bring it up again because it was the thing that I've continued to sit with me. And I heard this on a podcast. I think it was Joe Rogan or something. There was a guy that was on there, and like the quote that he says is like, every man who has two lives, and the second one starts when he realizes he only has one.
100%.
And like you talking about just perspective change, especially, and I hope I phrase this in a good way, but it's like even your perspective change, like towards your wife, like the moment you wake up and you see that she's been there for the whole time that you've been literally unconscious, just by your side, and like talked about just like the unwavering loyalty at like what is literally like a lowest moment,
right,
is just incredible.
Yeah. So the gratitude that you feel in that moment, it's not something that you can describe, but I just looked at her and I knew that there was nothing I had ever done or could ever do to deserve that kind of fealty, that kind of loyalty, that kind of compassion and love. Like I could never have earned that. She truly blew me away through all of this. I loved her before, but I couldn't. I can't even find the words now.
Yeah, of course.
It's an incredible feeling when you get to feel that for somebody. And it's crazy because in the midst of all this, she kind of like found her own passion for jujitsu, and she's training all the time now, and starting to run a pretty substantial little women's group at Black Flag. So by the way,
whole family's involved.
Oh yeah, the whole family. My daughter is starting to drive down from Edmond from college and train a couple days a week, and it's just been really beautiful. But a little shameless plug: every Friday at 5:30, we have a women's class at Black Flag, and it's an amazing class with some amazing ladies, and it's always free. It's not just free to members or their family. It's free to any woman that wants to train.
That's amazing.
Well, it always will be. It's one of those things. We kind of talked briefly about it. I feel pretty confident that most men, if they get in a fight, they could probably guerrilla fight their way out of the room if they had to.
Sure,
they may get beat up, they may get injured, but it's, the odds of it being a mortal injury are pretty slim. I mean, that does happen, but it's not as often as us martial arts instructors would like to tell people that it is. But if a lady finds herself in a bad situation, she better know how to handle herself and handle herself very well. She's at a lot of disadvantages physically in that moment. And so it's always kind of been what's the right word? I guess my belief, or I don't know, that it's my duty, my job, my honor
Mm-hmm.
to provide that space and to give that back. And I told my wife, when she gets her blue belt, I'm not doing that anymore. That's at that point,
She's coaching.
it's your job.
Yeah.
So, but at our school, that class at least will always be free.
That's
So,
amazing.
Oh,
That
that's
seriously
really
is amazing.
Yeah. Plug away, by the way.
well,
Your
Yeah.
business, man. Yeah.
Well, and I've been down there, and it's awesome. The gym is amazing, and it's cool, talking to you, especially because Black Flag's full time
yeah,
now.
it's
it.
all we do.
And so, I know that's has its own story
Oh,
to
yeah.
it, but it is, and kind of in our conversation, it's like, man, again, just like a perspective change. You told me about, getting to be on the mats every day, like with your kids and now your wife, and like
Mhm.
getting to kind of just live life with them. And it's funny because, what Black Flag's doing great, but it's not a multi-million-dollar construction business.
Oh no.
But it's, like, in just talking to you, and I know I'm speaking for you, but just hearing the like genuine happiness, like in your voice and the way you speak about it in your life today, like it's one of those where it's like, yeah, don't sign me up for it again. But like, if it wouldn't have happened, like life's completely different.
Yeah, no, we definitely wouldn't be where we are right now, So it's funny because, in my construction work, I did, parking lot maintenance and airfield maintenance and striping and seal coating and that kind of work. And it's very weather and season dependent.
Mhm.
And so December, January, February, those months, it's very dead. There's very little work to do. If you can do any work, I mean, great. But you're not going to do much. And we had really, really, really been kind of counting on a good March, and I had a ton of work booked for March. I mean, it was like we were gonna be teaching classes in the evening and the evening only, and I was gonna be working nights, mornings.
Mhm.
We were really gonna be coming back in March. Um, and to go down when I went down and to lose all of the work and to not, you know, to come back with no help, nobody. There was nobody to go. I mean, it's not like my hands could just sit around. They've already been at as low a check as they could be for as long as they could be,
Mhm.
and they couldn't sit around for a month and wait to see what happened.
Right.
And so it was all it was just gone. Life just has a way of readjusting, and you know, when we first set out to open Black Flag, we knew that someday we wanted it to kind of be our full time, what we did with our lives. But the intention was for it to, for now, be an evenings, you know, maybe 4 nights a week, evenings, have an open mat that will, pass keys out to a few select members and they
Mhm.
can run. And it'll be kind of a small little thing that just supports itself, and it's just really there for me to coach my kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And that was the plan.
Mhm.
And then I would run Jedco as our main source of income, and certainly our abilities in that aspect would have been much less, but it's not hard to make pretty good money when you have the assets and the ability and the employees, and
Yeah,
you
right.
can make a good living.
Right.
And so that was the plan. And life just changed the plan on us.
I'd say so.
I mean, I can't imagine that stressor thrown into the mix of
Oh,
everything
yeah.
of like your income that relies on you, running it. It sounds like you were very much still in the day-to-day the
Oh yeah.
operations, not necessarily front lines, but like now the thing that supports not just you but your whole family is you can't do that, man.
No,
And you're heading in because our business is somewhat seasonal ourselves. We try and make it not seasonal, but
everybody does.
yeah, we do our best. And to be heading into a busy month where you're going to try and make up for some of the slower months, and this is where we're going to push and try and gain a lot of our income to go into the problems that you had and the issues that you had, that I just can't imagine that stressor on top of everything else that you had to deal with, man.
You know, honestly, at the end of the day, that wasn't even a stressor because there was nothing I could do about it. Like it was done.
Mm.
Like when I woke up and I knew that I was going to be months before I was on my feet, I knew like that's done.
Mm.
It's just gone. And so like it was kind of a big relief to just like take a deep breath and go, all right, what next? You know, because it was just over. Like there wasn't even any point.
I feel like this, you know, and this story is obviously very telling of that, but it's like I think resilience or die kind of situation in this. You know what I mean? It's like you either got to be resilient or like because what else can you do at this point? You know what I mean? Like you've got to be just looking to the next because it's like there's so many fires.
Oh yeah, well,
you know,
and it's. I say it was just done. It's still not. We're still working through. We're gonna be filing for bankruptcy. We've got some tax issues to clean up. You know, the school it supports itself and it does make a little bit of money, but it just barely.
Yeah.
You know, I mean it's we have managed to keep the very smallest of the bills paid, but you know, we're down to one vehicle and we're, you know, sharing everything and very close. We're a very close knit family. Very close knit family now. But you know, everything comes with its pros and cons and its trade-offs. And resilience. I would say that is the most accurate takeaway is that it really is just resilience or die. Like, what is the other option?
Yeah.
What is the other option? It's I either survive this and find my footing and grit and push and find another way, you know, find another way through, around, whatever, over, under, whatever it means, or I just have to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you get to a certain point where, because I know I've experienced it myself. I've never dealt with anything that stressful. I don't think. And
yeah, you can go pee anytime you want.
Seriously. But I feel like when you deal with, at least when I deal with day-to-day stressors of the business or, you know, just things going on in my life, and, you know, I'll have, you know, not always a great reaction to it, or it has an effect on me. Like I get stressed out or deal with anxiety or this or that, is once it gets to a certain level though of just shit hit the fan, there's almost like a calm to it of like, this is just what it is.
Yeah.
What do I do about it?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. There's no, at some point it's like, I can worry about it now. Right. But that's just going to make me suffer twice. Like whatever is coming is coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever.
Well, and I think, you know, in talking to you this, and I think one of the most right word for this, like the most being complimentary of you in this is like you tell this story as a story of victory and not as a story of defeat. And I think that is one of the most inspiring parts about this, is because you talk about it in a frame of like, you won the war, so we're good.
Right.
Not of feel bad for myself. Like not, and I think that's one of the things that makes it such a cool story to me.
Well, let's, you know, I want to be clear. I felt like I was blessed beyond my deserving before all of this. You know, like I didn't deserve all of this. I've always been a very hard worker. I mean, very hard worker, but I've always found favor. I've always found favor in almost everything I do. You know, I put my hand to something really hard and I just won't quit until it's successful. And I've always felt very, very blessed. And to a certain extent, you know, man, I don't know how to really say it without it sounding cliche, I guess, but to a certain extent, I couldn't hold on to things that weren't mine. You know, like the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Like, this is a new season, and there was nothing I could have done to make it anything other than what it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, no, I do feel very fortunate. I do feel like somehow I did come out on top, even though like honestly, we're not financially killing it or anything like that.
Sure.
We're still cleaning up the mess, but god dang, I'm back on my feet. I'm grappling with
Yeah,
my
sun
kids.
shining,
Man,
like
sheesh. I just had a acai the other day. You know? Come on. It's hard to beat the life that I live.
Right.
I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. I'm at my school by 5, my first class at 6, you know, first breakfast at 7:30. Second breakfast is around 9:30, private lessons, noon class, come home. My sons are both homeschooling now, and I'm with them all day. And, my 2-year-old, I put him down for a nap for my wife at about 1:30, and at about 3, we all get up and round ourselves up, and we're back at the school by 4. And then, at 4:30, tiny kids, 5:30 kids, 6:30 adults, 7:30 advanced, 8:30 cleaning the mats,
That's right.
and I just really don't know. I don't know what more I could ask out of life
Yeah.
at this point. We're not suffering,
Mhm.
we're not doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month or crazy money or anything like that. But
I gotta imagine you're just happy the sun's shining.
dude, yeah, like I get to grapple with my kids. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what you
Yeah.
can't be upset about that. And at the end of the day, we're living this life, and somehow, some way, I keep buying groceries every week. I just sometimes I don't know how it's gonna come. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just keeps happening. And
Yeah.
I couldn't be more grateful. So yeah, no, I did win. I lost a lot in the middle of all this, but overall, I mean, it was a win. You
Mhm.
know,
Casualties to the war, but came out on top.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, is there a big difference in enjoyment from your day to day when you were running the construction company to now where it's
Oh
totally
yeah.
just the gym?
Oh yeah, 100%. When I was running the construction company, at one point we had 17 guys on the crew, and I worked. I can't even tell you how many days out of town without being home. We'd
Mm.
living out of hotel rooms and eating cheeseburgers and crap life. And if I got to train ever, it wasn't, somewhere I really knew anybody. And,
Yeah.
I was just dropping in and heading back to work. And I did it for the money,
Mm,
you know, um, and we made good money for a while.
absolutely.
When everything was up and running, and I had, the $100,000 worth of concrete saws on the $40,000 truck, followed by 6, pickup trucks carrying all of the apparatuses and the striping
Mhm.
rigs and the joint sealing rigs and the sandblasters and 17 guys. I didn't mobilize for less than $3,000 a day profit. We just didn't go anywhere. If
Mm,
we couldn't make that, we just sat the fuck at home and worked on our equipment.
mm,
Mm.
And that was a pretty easy thing to do
mm,
with all of that infrastructure.
Mhm.
The problem was that I was kind of a one-man show. I didn't have somebody to run the office and somebody to run, the crew, and somebody to chase down jobs. I ran the crew, I chased down the jobs, and I did all of the office work. And
Mhm.
and it was just unbelievably miserable. And the only reason that I kept doing it was for the money.
mm,
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it.
Mm.
mm,
Even the year that we had the best year ever,
mhm,
it just wasn't worth it. All the things that came with it, all the stress, all the heartache, it just wasn't worth it.
mm.
And now, sheesh, if we do an $8,000 month at Black Flag, we're really excited about it. and,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
but it is worth it
Yeah.
every damn day,
Mhm.
And um,
Like you said, you're not in a hotel room, you're putting a kid down for a nap.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
I'm not watching my infant son grow up through my wife's Instagram stories. I'm there. I'm a
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm really grateful to be, and I'm glad she kept me around. And, I'm glad that we have made it through everything we've made it through, and that she
Mhm.
was there by my side in my darkest hour, and is literally my best friend.
Mhm.
You know, I, you know, there were times when she and I weren't best friends. I think we've been married for 15 years in February, and I think everybody goes through times where you are best friends and then maybe not best friends, but
Right.
we tolerated one another. Everybody goes through that.
Mhm.
We've definitely gone through those times. But I can say without beyond a shadow of a doubt, she is my best friend.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there's, literally nobody I'd rather talk to about really anything that's going on, and to have that out of all of this, if that was the only thing that I got
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
all of this, it would be worth it.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I don't,
Absolutely.
I'm probably going way off track.
No,
it's,
no, this is
man,
great.
listening to you talk, it makes me reflect upon my own life quite a bit. And my wife has been with me. She moved to Oklahoma City with me 8 years ago to start the business, and she was around for so many seasons of that, and in times where I wasn't taking home a paycheck. I was working a second job and 80 total hours a week just to barely scrape by. And I'm, 40 hours in the business with, again, not taking anything from that. So, and she was there helping out on the weekends and the evenings and, cooking my meals at home and take, so she went through a lot of hardships while I was going through my own hardships, and she was right there with me. So we went through that together, and we came out the other side even stronger. And man, hearing you talk about being able to spend time with your family and your kids, and how difficult it can be to balance a business the size that you had and your family is tough, man. And it really emphasizes the point. And one thing I've really been focused on, because for those that don't know, my daughter was born just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I hope we have a glass of whiskey here just in a second to
We
celebrate this.
honestly would be better.
Yeah.
That right there like kind of overshadows everything, man. Congratulations on
Thank
being
you,
a new
thank
dad. That's amazing.
When we first started trying, it was Alyssa's been ready. Alyssa's my wife. She's been ready to be a mother for a long time, and she has put off a lot of things that she wanted to do in her life because I was putting so much effort into the business and getting it up and going. And we've finally gotten to the point where I don't have to put in 80-hour weeks. I can get home on time, most evenings. I can, do stuff with her on the weekends.
Awesome.
And that doesn't always happen. And I think we're all on the same page of that. But we finally gotten to the point where it's, let's do some stuff that you really want to do. She really wanted to have kids, and I'm always up for it. Yeah. We've got really quick.
We got the easy part of that.
Yeah. we've got regular glasses, or we've got snooty glasses because we did pull out the nice stuff. It's up to you guys what you want to use, but I'll probably do.
Give me a snooty one. I want to feel fancy.
I feel like I would break that snooty glass. I'll just take the old tumbler.
And Kevin, what are we drinking tonight?
We pulled out one of the nice ones, the E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. I got this one last year, and I haven't opened it. So I brought this in celebration of my daughter being born. But man, Jayson, also you being not just here with us today, but walking around and being in better shape than Thomas and I are right now.
That's not true.
Combined better shape.
That's a lot of love, you guys. I appreciate that, but it's not true. I see you guys.
But yeah, it's Alyssa was very ready, and the closer we've gotten into this, man, give me just a little more.
I pour mine more than yours?
Yeah, you did a little bit. That's good, thank you. But as Alyssa went through pregnancy, and I got to watch her, absolutely.
That's right.
I'm gonna take a quick drink.
That's got a good nose on it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Mm.
You a whiskey guy? You said nose like you know what you're talking about.
I at one time was.
Okay.
I do love whiskey. I don't drink like I used to. I'm pretty
This is the
disciplined.
only time we drink.
Right. Yeah.
Literally.
This is an occasion for me as well. So, for me, like, I stay pretty disciplined in my diet and everything. But yeah, no, I definitely enjoy a good whiskey. I'm a Scotch guy myself.
Ooh, we could get into some
Yeah,
scotches.
Yeah,
look, I'm
Man.
a Scotch guy.
Yeah, I wish I would have known. I have some at home that I could
Uh,
have brought, but
no,
well,
this is very good. So
I'm glad you like it, man.
uh,
Um, but anyway, going back to watching Alyssa go through pregnancy and deal with all the struggles that a female goes through when they are going through pregnancy, and still come to work every
Canadian.
day and bust her ass and just she really helps keep the company running. So she works here full time. She has since 2019, and she runs all of our inventory, works with all our vendors, does a ton of back end stuff, works a lot with our website. So,
Literally doing payroll 2 weeks ago while having contractions.
oh wow.
so that's yeah. I that's a funny story in itself. I woke up 2 Tuesdays ago, and to Alyssa had woken up early, and I saw her like kind of moving around, and I was like, it's not time for me to get up. I'm gonna get my sleep. She's up doing something. I don't really know what. She hasn't woken me up, and I finally get out into the kitchen around 7 in the morning, and she's on her laptop, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like this is quite a bit earlier than you're usually getting up." And she's like, I think I'm going into labor, but I needed to do payroll. So,
Holy crap.
That is Alyssa to a T, though.
That's incredible.
she's like, if we have to go to the hospital, she's like, I'm not going to get a chance to run payroll, and everybody's got to get paid. So,
What are you talking about, Kevin? Shut up for a second. Let me finish payroll.
Oh, that's funny.
she did end up going into labor later that night. She came to the warehouse that day and worked all day because she was like, they might just be Braxton Hicks contractions. Ended up, she was actually going into labor. So
Wow.
came into worked that whole day. I have a ton of stories of her through her pregnancy of just working her ass off and keeping the company running and organized and not even just the bare minimum, but everything she possibly can. And it's grown my excitement for the baby as well as my love for her. And again, I wasn't this guy that was ultra excited to have kids, but when Riley got here in the hospital, there was the doctor and 8 other nurses, and I was bawling. I was crying. So
yeah.
I've been just ultra excited for it, and it gives me a reason to try and get things in place and be able to get home on time, because I've got the excitement of seeing my daughter when I get home,
Right.
even though she's just still a 2-week-old baby. It's I get excited to see Alyssa and help out and and be able to see her and just spend time with them. It adds a whole other reason for me to work a little bit harder to make sure that
Yeah.
I am getting to spend time with them throughout the
Awesome.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Isn't that such a fun time too? That newborn infancy phase, like
Mhm.
where they just are completely and totally dependent on you and your wife. It doesn't sound fun until you're there and you're like, this is actually really, really wholesomely enjoyable.
That's my favorite part of the day is because, again, my wife being who she is, she's the one that wants to wake up with the baby. She's like, it doesn't make sense because
Oh yeah.
I've got to get up and feed. She's like,
Oh yeah.
why would you get up? I'm like,
My
I
wife-
want to get up.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of the day is I get up early and I go check on them. What do you guys need? And
Yeah.
I'm trying to play this. I'm almost starting to feel guilty of like, because I want to help. I was like, totally expecting to not get sleep in this period of time. And she's like, get your 8 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you even just need something from the kitchen, call me or wake me up. I will
Yeah.
get it for you.
Oh yeah, that's a difficult feeling of guilt whenever my wife is very very much the same way. She wanted me to get as much rest as I can because I was kind of bringing home the bacon and so to speak, and she got to stay with the kids, so she's always really taken the head on all of that. And man, like I said earlier, we really just get the fun part.
Yeah.
But like we really do.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. So I'm sure that you have the same experience. I can't even express how much admiration I've had for my wife every time I've watched her give birth to a new life. Our youngest, we've got a 2-year-old. he was completely unplanned. You know, we call him our little COVID surprise. You know, we were quarantined and there wasn't anything better to do. But she had him at home in our house, completely natural, no medicine,
No epidural,
no nothing.
Wow.
She had a midwife come in the house. She did the vast majority of her labor in our bathroom in the shower on one of those little exercise balls for it. I didn't even realize that she was in hard labor until like it was just almost time to push. Like I was in bed. She got up, went and got in the shower. I fell back asleep. You know, like
Right.
she really just
She came back in with a baby and I was like, hey, by the way.
I got up to check on her and I was like, I need to call somebody. We're way further along than I thought. And you know, just feel like an absolute sack because I what else could I don't know. But this amazing being brought our perfect children into the world. And I don't think enough of us guys really realize what a superpower that is because I can't create life.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That is. I've told this story a couple of times about it just being surreal, but you know, my wife will be in the nursery, you know, feeding or doing something with the baby, and I'll be out in the living room ready, you know, to help out however I can. I've never felt so helpless in my life. And you know, I'll be out in the living room for a couple hours and the baby will make a sound where I just, you know, I'm working on something and the baby will make a sound. I'm like, there's a baby in this house.
Yeah.
And I like pick it up and I'm like, Alyssa created this. Like it is just wild.
Yeah. I remember when my daughter was born, I was, you know, obviously way younger then because she's in college. So I won't go into how old I was and date myself completely. But I had worked with my dad my whole life. You know, we were very, very much like self-made construction people. We built almost every piece of equipment we had by hand. You know, we would go out and look at it and see what it was supposed to be and then kind of find a way to make it ourselves. And that's how we had anything. We didn't have investors or money to buy or build. We just made it happen. And I remember when my daughter came out and the only thing I could say to my dad was like, I don't need batteries. She doesn't take any oil. I don't have to put gas. She just came out and was like, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't like really wrap my head around that fact. And I felt that same thing every time you know, when I've held both of my all of my children, it's the same feeling of like, I just was here. Like I just got to be here for this miracle. Like I didn't do anything. And you know, I try to be as helpful as I can to my wife. I know that I need to be better, but I try to be as helpful as I can. I come home and, you know, take over with the baby and, you know, do the dishes or whatever needs to be done. But good Lord, she is the front line when it comes to that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Megan, if you're listening to this, I don't know how you do it all.
Yeah.
Any advice that you have for a new girl dad?
A new girl dad? Don't take my advice. I fucked up in every way you can. No, I can tell you this. Girl dads need their dads. Or girls need their dads. So girl dads have to be there. You just, you know, for anything that she comes to you with, just be there. You know, I wish that I hadn't let work take me away when my daughter was in some of her younger, more vulnerable years. But I was there for everything I could be. And she knows that at the end of the day, she knows that she was always my priority. And as long as your daughter knows that, like if you actually make her know that she mattered, that's it. That's really all you can do.
Yeah.
You're going to make all the mistakes just like the rest of us. I mean, there's no way around it. I wish there was a how to parent book that actually worked. There's not one. There's not an instruction manual. There's ton of books written, and you're wasting your time. Like none of them have the answers.
The only thing that gives me confidence is Alyssa's got motherly instincts like none other,
Mm.
and
yeah.
it's like, all right, I'm gonna let you take the wheel on this, and when I feel confident to step in and help, I'll do that. But otherwise, I'm gonna be asking you for advice.
Oh yeah. If it wasn't for mothers, our children wouldn't get raised. That's just the way it is. I mean, we have specific duties as men, as fathers, but really at the end of the day, like if it wasn't for mothers, there wouldn't be us. Like it's just the way it is.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, listen to you guys bragging. I ain't got no kids.
That's bragging right there.
Yeah, it's in its own way. It really is. I mean, it comes with. There's pros and cons to everything. So I'm super blessed and fortunate, but I wouldn't lie if there's times I'm not. Somebody come get these little.
Yeah.
But I've really started to kind of think a little bit more, kind of diving into just preparing for everything where running the business, especially in the first few years, it was like, man, if it needs to get done, I can do it. I'll be the one, to really try and like fill any gaps or try and, just get this thing up off the ground. And I had tremendous help from Thomas and a number of other people, especially early on. I definitely couldn't have done it by myself, but it was very much the mentality of like, I'm willing to do anything in the beginning.
Yeah.
We're kind of at a point where we've grown where one, it would be impossible for me to do that. I can't work 2 locations at once.
Right.
And 2, even if it was possible, there's now other priorities in life, and starting to kind of, man, I'm starting to get to the point where I got a life insurance policy because I was driving down the road the other day and I was like, what if I got in a car wreck, which is not super out of the ordinary.
No.
What would the business do? Because it isn't just providing for me. It's not just this dream we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
It's providing for me. It's providing for Thomas. It's providing for everybody else that works for the company, and my wife and daughter now. It's like, what would they do? That's their income. So trying to, I'm my mindset has really started to shift over the past 9 months.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Man, when you have that first thought of like, this is bigger than me, how terrifying was it?
Because I was pretty ill prepared, very terrifying. I was like, I've done nothing to prepare if I wasn't here.
Yeah, none of us have. I mean, honestly, we just haven't. We don't think about our own mortality enough.
Yeah.
And my wife's favorite saying is memento mori, and that is just remember that you'll die. And it sounds morbid at first, but you cannot take life seriously without remembering that you're going to die one day. And this is all going to go away. And I have fallen in love with that statement this year.
I heard, I can't even remember who it was, but I started to realize how many people that have lived a successful life in one version or another tend to talk about their death more often than most people, which again sounds morbid, but it made me realize of like, man, I kind of only got one chance, man.
Right.
I want to do the best that I can.
Yeah, man. That's funny because you hear that statement that you only have one life. We only get to live once. But I love the statement that, if you do it right, once is enough. And that's kind of how I'm trying to live these days.
Yeah. Once is enough. That hit me.
If you do it right, once is enough.
Yeah, if you do it right. Gosh, it's a balancing act, though,
Boy,
man.
isn't it? Boy. Well, and you talk about being willing to do whatever it took in the beginning, and kind of shifting gears into that. Now you can't do that, and honestly, I was probably a victim of my own doing in the past because I just refused to hand over the reins in so many ways because I was so terrified of this thing that I had built getting away from me or getting away from somebody else. Like, if I'm struggling with it, how are you going to do it? Like, and that is a little bit of hubris that I think as entrepreneurs, we probably all possess to a certain extent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go out and do the things that we do, because, you know, if we were just willing to pawn our responsibilities off on someone else, we probably wouldn't ever get anything off the ground.
Right.
And so it's like this double-edged sword that we
Yeah.
have to constantly juggle of, hey, I've got to delegate some things,
Mhm.
but I need to be the one doing it. Oh, I got to delegate, but I really need to take care of, make sure it's done. It's really tough.
Didn't
So
take
kudos
us
to you.
didn't take us long to teach Kevin we were better at his job than he was.
That-
Oh,
so.
well, I mean, you know, that helps a lot.
That
helps
was the
a lot.
hubris. That was the hard thing to get over for me. Was hard to pass it off in the first place. The unexpected hard thing about that was when they started doing better than I was at it, and it was like this totally demoralizing thing. And I was like, wait a second, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I should be
Yeah,
happy.
no, yeah, that's a hard thing to celebrate.
Yeah.
Like whenever somebody starts like really showing you up as an entrepreneur, that's a really tough thing to celebrate.
It took me multiple weeks to realize it and accept it for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to celebrate, but that's your own ego getting in the way. And I've had that experience one time in my life. I've had somebody kind of come and then they got strung out on meth and went away. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
But my line of work was always a very different line of work.
Sure.
You know, joint sealing and striping and working out in that element, it's very tough to find reliable,
Mm.
substantial people that can show up and want to do it and not just do it to get a paycheck, but do it to do it well.
Right.
Mhm.
Like that's a very
Right.
tough thing to find.
Yeah.
And when you do find them, they have their own demons. They're not there because they have other options. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah. That is, what's funny in kind of an interesting parallel is like one of the things that we always talk about with Triad and the business we've got going is like, we feel like we have people who have tons of options. Like they're well overqualified for working
Man.
in a supplement store. And so it's like, from us, like I know myself and I know I'm speaking for Kevin, but I know he feels this way. If it's like you get this sense of like gratefulness at times too, and this remembrance of like, oh man, like you could be doing whatever you want. Like
Right.
you would be successful, whatever you decided to do. We're lucky and blessed enough that you want to do it here with us. And so
Man, that's so awesome. That's hard. That's hard to come by, especially now.
We have to remind ourselves of that constantly. Of they could be getting paid more somewhere else very easily. So keeping in mind, like creating a good environment for them, one that is an enjoyable place to come to work. And the biggest thing is what we promised in the beginning is the opportunities of we can't pay you a lot now, but we're working on growing this thing. And when we get to the point where it's as big as we envision it, the people that'll be helping run the company will be you guys, the ones helping build it.
And they're ground floor guys.
Right.
Mhm.
Plus, getting to come to work with a good looking guy like Thomas every day.
Ooh,
Probably,
I mean,
You're welcome. You guys.
That's why he does our interviews.
I gotta win him over.
Man, that has got to be the most glorious like chin strap beard I've ever seen. You rock it. So
Ooh.
it's like perfectly groomed in and symmetrical.
I manicure it every day.
Good for you.
Yeah, you really should start to get into some beard competitions.
I've done a beard competition.
That's what you
before.
did, didn't you?
Yeah, my so we happened to just be walking by, a friend and I. It was back in Springfield, back in Missouri, and just happened to be walking by a bar, and they were having a beard competition in there. There was a couple of people that we knew. Tyler, the barber from next door of
yeah.
S2, he was in there, and he was like competing.
That makes sense.
And so I was like, "Oh, this is funny, like whatever." So I went in, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, what is their competition or whatever? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, like, I'll sign up, like, whatever. And they had like all these different categories, and there was like craziest, and then there was like long, and then they had like medium, and then like the last one was called, like the last one was like short beards, and those had to be like, like 2 or 3 inches or less or whatever. Right. And, they like line us all up, all the guys, and then they'd like have you get up on stage, and they give you the microphone for a second, and they let you kind of say whatever you want to say. And so I just like literally had walked in off the street, And so the guy's like doing the interview or whatever, and he's like, so what made you want to compete in a beard competition? And I said, oh, I heard 2 inches or less, so I got up on stage. Didn't realize this was a beard competition. Everybody started laughing, and I took second place, so I won a sombrero.
All right.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
You're one of the only people I would know that would find themselves in that situation.
Literally, like, Thomas, where'd you get that sombrero? Well, funny enough story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a top 10 story for me now. I'm gonna memorize that so I can tell people your story. That's good.
That one guy, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna say, and like, and they were like, all right, I know the 2 inches or less category, and I'm like, I got some. I
got to play on those words.
Yeah, I can make this work.
So, man, with running the gym today, is there any overlap, anything that you learned with the construction business that you've been able to overlap into to running the gym and helping grow the gym at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Don't quit.
Hey,
just don't quit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That comes to really just about anybody in an entrepreneurial position. It's don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, it's not over till you say it's over.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what,
Resilient or die.
Exactly. I mean, well, so it's funny enough, our motto at Black Flag is no quarter, no surrender.
Mm.
So the Black Flag in the Black Flag Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's the exact opposite of the white flag. So it's a refusal to surrender, a refusal to accept quarter. So that was the whole point in it. And we kind of started to touch on it whenever I was telling the story, but when we actually first came up with the idea for Black Flag Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we had mats in our garage in 2020. We hung a heavy bag, and we were like, everybody was shut down, right, for COVID, and we just rolled in the garage, and it was like we were at the beach in Black Flag conditions, when nobody's supposed to be there. And so we're doing it kind of as a in spite of everything.
That's
we're still
funny.
there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, that's actually kind of cool, Black Flag Bjj. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, what does a black flag even represent? What does it mean?
Yeah.
And I wanted to look into it, like more of the Black Flag conditions founded in the worst of possible situations. And I read about the first black flags being flown in battle by the Union Army in the Revolutionary War, and that it was the exact opposite of the white flag, and that it meant no quarter and no surrender. Like they were going to fight to the death no matter what. And I was like, that is it. That is the motto. And so what we say is, we train. It's the way we train. And it's the way we live, but the true battle is within. And in that endeavor, we will accept no quarter and we will never surrender.
That's such a cool meaning, man.
Yeah.
And I love hearing the mentality in general. And getting into business ourselves, we heard from way more people than we probably should have, of all the statistics on this many businesses, this percent of businesses fail within their first year. This percent of businesses fail within their first 3, yada, yada.
Oh, yeah.
We never hit a moment where we didn't have an option out. We didn't have an option to keep going.
Yeah.
We had to.
Sometimes those options weren't great.
For sure. Sometimes.
But they were options.
Sometimes we could get creative and come up with ways to turn a bad situation into a real opportunity. And I think that's an Andrew Jackson quote of every problem is an opportunity in disguise.
Yeah.
And the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we couldn't really get creative with it. It just took simple hard work, but it's like, man, I'm used to, if we're calculating, okay, working 8 hours a day, it's like, well, like a day has 24 hours in it.
Right.
What if I worked all 24?
It can be done.
That's like,
I can tell you it can be done.
Right. That is quite a bit more than 8, and I could get a lot more accomplished. Not super practical if you're not sleeping on a regular basis, but Vincent did that a little bit. One of the original partners. But we never hit a situation, and it made me realize that businesses don't really fail people just get into a situation that they don't want to work themselves out of.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and ultimately, it might sound rude, but I believe that they quit.
No. That's not rude. That's accurate.
Hmm.
You know, I look at people all the time that talk about how hard they're working, and for me, from a perspective of my history and my past and some of the things that I've been through, you know, I know what it literally is like to work 72 hours straight.
Yeah.
Like literally, I know what that means. Like 72 hours nonstop. You're taking a 15-minute break every 12 hours and then back at it. I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're out on an airfield pushing snow to keep these hangars and aprons open for KC-135, 137s and all these things for the Air Force, you don't get to just say, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that's not an acceptable answer.
Mm-hmm.
And you signed up for this shit. Get in there and keep that fucking apron clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been there. I know what it's like. My oil field guys will know what it's like whenever something goes wrong and you're at the end of a 12-hour shift on a, 14-day hitch. You don't get to say I'm tired.
Right.
That's just not an answer. And so a lot of people, they give up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that refusal to quit,
Mhm.
it will take you a long way. I had a lot of people look at me really crazy whenever I told them I was opening a jiu-jitsu school in a post-COVID economy. Like everybody was like, it's not the same after COVID. It's not. And truthfully, it's not. It's
Sure.
not the same. A lot of people are still weird about it. To me, I just, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
what to say.
Right.
Are we all going to just get hung up on this forever, or are we going to go back to life at
Right.
some point? And I know that's going to piss somebody off, but
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Anything you say pisses somebody off these days.
Boy, you're not wrong about that. So
how dare you say that, Kevin?
when we first started getting ready to have our women's only class, before we even opened the doors at Black Flag, and we put on the website women only class. It was originally supposed to be on Wednesday nights, and we put a little asterisk next to it, and it says biological females only. Before we even opened the school doors, I got 5 phone calls wanting to know if the women's only class was trans inclusive.
5 phone calls?
5 phone calls. 5 phone calls before we even opened the door. And I just told them, no, it's not. And I apologize. You're more than welcome to come and train at any of our co-ed classes.
Mm-hmm.
But this class is specifically for biological females because they are at a combative disadvantage. And that's what this class is about. You don't fit the category.
Mm-hmm.
We got hate.
I was going to ask how mad these people were when you told them no.
Oh, dude, it's seething. But I mean, it was. You're welcome to come back to a co-ed class, and the fact that the fact that was the end of the conversation was even worse for him because there was no disrespect. It's not like you don't. But look, this is a space that I'm sorry you don't belong in, and no, I won't make an exception for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And we got hate for it.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do? What do you do? At some point, we have to have some place where we say, no, enough is enough. Like, you're accepted in everything that you can be, but these spaces, they really need to be sacred for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no matter what you do, you're going to piss somebody off,
Yeah.
no matter how pure your intentions are. And it's not like I set that up to say,
right.
F you to the trans community. Like, no, that's not the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just that this space is this for a reason.
And I'm sure there are gyms out there that would be happy to take you.
Absolutely. I would be happy to take you. Come to a co-ed class. I will teach you. We will treat you just like any other human being. But this one class, this one class is off limits.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is.
Right.
Yep. And I think a lot of people forget that you as a business owner, it is a private business, and you get to make those decisions, man.
Right.
Whether you know I or anybody else agrees or disagrees with them, man. It's you get to make those. So
Right.
Well, you know, they're tough decisions to make when you make those kind of calls,
100%.
Mhm.
because no matter no matter how you feel about it, it's gonna impact you in some way.
Yeah.
And you know, I just tell people like this: we first and foremost, we don't take every single person that comes through the door and tries out at Black Flag.
Right.
We have, I feel like I have a duty to the women and children on my mats to be pretty particular about
Sure.
who
You
I
have to.
let
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
have to. You
well,
have to be.
especially in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
You have to be.
I mean, it's such an intimate art. I mean, like 1 minute we're going to be grabbing each other's ankles. The next minute we may be neck to neck with each other. I mean, it's a very,
Mhm.
very intimate, close
Yep.
art. And I'll be damned if I'm going to find out that I taught somebody who has a proclivity for holding people down how to hold people down.
Right.
I'm just not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very selective about who gets a membership at my school.
Sure.
And when I tell people that, a lot of times I think they think I'm full of shit
Mm.
until they see me tell somebody that they can't.
Yeah.
That I'm sorry. We've really enjoyed your trial period. We've really enjoyed having you in the school, and it's been great to get to know you. I can help you find someplace else, but we're not the place for you.
It is that is a very interesting thing. I have firsthand seen somebody not be welcome anymore into a jiu-jitsu space before, and you know this was more in the lines of injuring training partners,
Right.
to
And
fr-
that's a very good
Yeah.
a very good reason.
and it's like hey man, you're on number 4. Like this is
Yeah, an accident once a year is one thing. But
yeah, and it's like this guy had you in a rear naked and you dislocated 4 of his fingers. Like
Yeah, you gotta go.
you're just not and then it's 6 months later they come, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, and it's like, well, this isn't how this
Yeah,
goes,
no.
and it's like and I've seen not naming names or anything like that, but I've seen those people welcome back, and it's like, what does it take? And the interesting part about jiu-jitsu is sometimes the only maybe I shouldn't speak too much on this, but it's like the only way to fix the person who breaks people is to break them.
Absolutely.
And I have seen not my current, but I have seen firsthand justice go down with that, and it is one of those things that some people, it's just not a space for them to be in,
Right.
and they just can't handle you see these it's these guys who big guys usually guy was like 6'5", like over 300 pounds. And, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to take it easy. And then, he's slamming girls on, not slam mats. And even if it was you know what I'm saying? It's
he shouldn't be elevating a
but
woman.
it's like, and
Right.
then you're just like, man, like how many times do you have to be talked to, and then it's like, oh, well, sometimes I guess the talking's not working. Like maybe,
Well, that's when the mat enforcer comes in.
that's right. And then it's one of those situations where it's like, man, you almost have to protect the community at that point.
Absolutely.
And it's like, man, this is just not a space for you to be in. And like somebody's going to have to teach you that lesson, unfortunately.
Right.
And it happens.
It does. And I've always liked the old adage that if we break our toys, we have nothing to play with. And that's how we treat our training partners.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're valuable to me, because if I hurt you,
yeah,
then I don't have anybody to train with. I can't get any better if I just show up to an empty room because nobody will roll with me.
Well, firsthand, is myself included, is like being big guys. It's you have to take like the additional precaution, because it's like, and I've thankfully I've never seriously hurt anybody, accident or on purpose, really. But it's like, but it's just a wrong step for us. It's it's a shift in weight the wrong direction.
It doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much,
especially when you're in tight submissions and things like that. And it doesn't take much.
And I roll with a lot of like women and children, and it's like in those kind of things, it's very I can step backwards and there's a hand there, like, well, crap. Yeah, right. And so, but it's when, people, especially like large guys, that are not even taking precaution, but then, it's funny because I bring this up, and it's like, this particular person, again, not naming names, and it's like, but then somebody else sees them in a public space, you know, screaming at their wife, and you're like, so this is just who you are, you know, and it's like, this is just the kind of guy you are. And in fact, now I feel better. Like I feel even better about the fact that like you've essentially been forced off of these mats.
Yeah, you're not getting the tools that you need to hurt people worse.
Yeah, right.
So
it's like there's underlying issues here.
That's one of the things that I do when I have somebody come in for a free trial. Is I automatically go back to OSCN and I look. I want to know two things. I want to know, do you have a violent history and do you have a sexual history? Because if you have either one of those things, man, I'm not teaching you shit.
Yeah,
I'm not teaching you shit.
Right.
And I don't mean like, hey, I got in, drunk and assault and battery. We've all been in younger
shit
things.
Happens.
But do you have a history and record of
domestic violence and
absolutely?
Yeah, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, if you've been one that has consistently broken the law in that way and hurt people in that way. And I'm not talking about self-defense. We all know what mutual combat is, and we all know what assault is. And there's a very big difference. I'm all for mutual combat, by the way. Like if somebody decides that they want to agree to mutual combat, I think that the gentlemanly thing to do is to go out in the fucking parking lot and give it to them. Like that's legitimately how I believe. Yeah. But if you just walk up and sucker punch somebody, you're the kind of piece of shit that doesn't need to know how to do what we do.
Yeah, right.
Like legitimately, you don't need to know it.
Right.
And if you're on the sexual registry, really, honestly, for any reason, you don't need to.
No thanks.
No, thank you. You don't need to know anything about what we do. Yeah. But especially if you're on the sexual registry for touching children, if I find that out, I'm going to call you into the middle of the room and everybody is going to watch while I give you the justice those children deserve. Yeah. Because you signed a fucking waiver, bro.
Yeah. You're fucked. That's the best part. It's just not a damn thing you can do about it.
Yeah, no. I'm going to fuck you up.
Yep.
and that's legitimate. But no, going back to the whole thing, that was the whole reason for the mat enforcer and what we used to call the Rickroll. Somebody came in and got rough with a small, a little framed person or a woman. The mat enforcer is going to come in and you're going to get what's called a Rickroll. And a Rickroll is just a dick roll. And it's just a PC way of saying I'm going to be a dick. And you're going to get Rickrolled for the next 5 minutes. And then the next guy is going to get on you. And by the time we're done with you, you're not going to want to come back.
Yeah. I have a fun story that I can tell here is I have a previous training partner from an old thing who to this day does not know this. So he might be listening. But he doesn't know that I know that prior to my fiance and I getting together, he decided to he had Instagram messaged her and she kind of didn't respond. And he proceeded to Instagram message more and more. And she kind of was like, hey, not really interested. And then he proceeded to call her all sorts of names and tell her that she was missing out and she would never get anybody as good as him. And blah blah blah.
Man,
and
sounds like a classy guy.
Oh yeah, and for about 6 months he was my favorite training partner. To this day, does not know I know, but every time he showed up to class, I beat the shit.
Good for you. Very few of us get that opportunity. Good for you.
And I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want him to stop showing up.
Absolutely not. Milk that cow for all it's worth.
Everyone at
not
that
very
gym,
many of us get that.
Every single person at that gym, including the coaches, knew the situation, and he'd walk in and they'd all go,
nobody.
They look at me.
It's great. Nobody told him.
Yeah, nobody said a word.
That
to him.
Really goes to speak to the integrity of the community. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And every single time he showed up, it's like, damn, man, a bloody nose again. Man, that's crazy.
Man, your crossface is really tough today.
Yeah, golly, man. Hey, I'm working my topside pressure. I got a competition I think coming up, so I'm gonna. You mind if I? Yeah, okay. And, oh man, like, oh, was that submission a little too far? Dang, that popped. Ooh, my bad,
great.
man. You ready to? You want to go 2 in a row? Like, let's go again.
Let's keep rolling.
Yeah,
let's just roll through. Let's just roll through.
You're a good partner for me. So, your size is not like. Let's just keep going.
You'd go home and tell Laurel everything you did that
Oh
day.
yeah. Oh, she knows all about it. Yeah, no, that's great.
Oh man, shout out to this guy, whoever he is.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
And from time to time he'll show up. He doesn't show up often, especially not anymore. But from time to time, and I'm like, oh, it's like Christmas morning.
Yeah,
every time.
baby.
Yeah, it's like,
Good
look
for
who's
you.
walking in.
Good
Gosh.
for you. We should all be so lucky to have that every once in a while in our lives. That's beautiful.
And again, like, oh man, like, dang, you signed that waiver though, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, let's go ahead and get you another one just in case.
We're just gonna double down on the waivers here. Oh man.
That's funny because I always joke with everybody that comes into my school. I'm like, hey, I need you to sign a waiver. It's really basic. All it says is that, I don't have anything. So unless you want to be a jiu-jitsu instructor, don't sue me.
Yeah.
Because this is all you can get. And it's not a glamorous life.
Man, going into protecting your guys' culture at your gym is, man, I'm sure, especially as the owner of the gym, in any gym that it is, it's probably tough for someone to come in and say, I want to pay you money, and you to be like, no.
No, that's very tough. As a matter of fact, last, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I had a family. They made it about halfway through their week. And I just told them, hey, we're not the place for you.
Mhm.
And I had one of my guys that came up to me and he was like, hey, I just want to know so that I know, like, what was the deal? And I just told him flat out, I was like, the husband and wife dynamic was off,
Mhm.
and I've seen this happen before, and I'm not really sure what's going on with them. It's not my place. I don't care.
Yeah.
But the woman comes in, she's looking for external validation or attention somewhere else, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's, her going to other guys trying to do some things, or the guy is feeling a little whatever and gets a little too rough with his wife, and then some guy feels some sort of way with it, and I could just tell by looking at the whole situation. I just said, at the end of the day, they probably need jujitsu.
Mm.
They probably really do. Unfortunately, our culture we're not going to sacrifice our culture at the altar of their marriage. So
Because
that's
you
just the way
put
it is.
everybody else that's paying for a membership at risk
Yeah.
of potentially leaving because they're bringing the culture down.
Mm.
Well, I had this situation happen at Conquest, and it was really unfortunate. I had a married couple come in, and the dynamic was just off. But I was just like, man, I really hope that jiu-jitsu does what it does, and before it could, she got involved with somebody at the school, and then she was real weird in the first place, like really weird, messaging me at all kinds of hours, trying to get me to communicate with her, and I just never would at all. Like I just
Mhm.
completely
right.
ignored her. Outside of any professional
Yeah. Right.
way,
Right.
I just never would communicate with her, and and she started a little thing with somebody at the school, and then one day she started sending me screenshots saying that I had a sexual abuser on the mats, and was sending me screenshots of their conversation. But I could tell, like you can see very clearly that this conversation has been tampered with. She's been
been
deleting her
doctored.
side of
Mhm.
everything. Like this guy didn't just out of the blue say what he said.
Yeah.
Like there was
these text
definitely
messages don't
some
match up.
yeah, there's definitely some conversation left out. And so I just asked, where's the rest of the conversation? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I messaged him and I was like, hey man, I really need your end of those text messages and I need it now.
Mm.
And he's like, I deleted it. I knew I shouldn't have been talking to her, and I deleted the whole thing.
Mm.
And it hurt me. It hurt me bad. But I had to tell them both that they weren't welcome on my mat. So
Yeah.
like
Mm.
it just at the end of the day, that's
Yep.
what had to be. Because of the accusations that she made and because of her actions, she
Yeah.
wasn't allowed back,
Yeah.
and neither was he, and it hurt me very, very badly. And so because of that experience, I am very vigilant when it comes to the husband-wife dynamic, and we don't allow. So if you were to come in as a couple, that first week, we're not going to allow you to roll against each other. Not going to happen because I'm not going to have you guys working out whatever frustrations you have in the marriage on my mats in the very first week.
Right.
And I'm not going to have a friendly roll turn into a marital spat in the parking lot. That's not going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a lady and that lady is going to get with your wife and she's going to drill with her and she's going to roll with her. And she's going to devote her evening to making your wife feel comfortable and at home. And I'm going to go grab one of my guys and he's going to introduce himself to you and he's going to drill with you and he's going to roll with you and he's going to devote his evening to that. And for the next week, you guys are not going to be allowed to roll with each other. Now, once we've gotten to know both of you very well, by the way, because in a week you can get to know people pretty well. I mean, you're not going to know all the secrets, but
you learn a lot though.
You're going to know enough. And once we get to know you guys and you guys seem kosher and copacetic, you're going to start your first roll of the night off with somebody else. And if you wind up rolling together at the end of the night, that's fine. But you're not going to come in here and just beat up on your wife and wife's not going to just take out her frustrations on her husband. Like, this is not going to happen. So in that, what we have found, or what I have found, is that going apart and learning the technique and then coming back together to discuss it winds up being a common ground thing.
Well, it forces them to make friends. They've met somebody new. You get that bubble of like going with somebody that's like you're super comfortable with, or even in positive situations, in positive marriages where it's like you get this bubble and it's like, no, let's branch out. Like you go meet that lady, I'm gonna go meet this guy.
Well, it forces them to integrate to the community as well. But the great thing about it is that they now have something to discuss with one another. And what we avoid is this situation where there's this opportunity for unexpected conflict because they've had to go out and diffuse their own shit before they come back together. And so, and even my wife and I sometimes will just go drill with your friends. I think my wife is the greatest human being on the planet, but Lord Almighty, we spend every day together. We're together all day, every day. And, you know, I am not the most patient of human beings. I mean, I may seem like it, but I promise you I'm not. And I will need to go get my ass kicked by one of my bigger upper belts before I'm in a place where I can coach my white belt wife through, you know, all of the things that I forget that she hasn't trained with me for the last 15 years. It's a hard thing for her to have to endure because I've been training very religiously since we got married, and she has trained off and on, you know, a month here or 2 months there, you know, gone a week or two, but never really. I mean, she never really took to it until now. And so when I tell her, hey, you got to slow down, that's offensive in her mind at first. Because she doesn't realize that it's coming from a place of this is, I've been here and I've done this. And so there are times when I really need to go get that hard roll out of the way. And then I can slow down and be like, all right, we can roll and I can control the pace. Because if she goes out and starts doing the white belt spaz thing and I haven't gotten that hard roll out of the way, then I inadvertently, not really thinking about that this is my wife and she needs me to roll with her in a different way. I'm going to treat her like any other white belt. And I'm going to match her pace. And that's a problem. This is coming from somebody that's done this for a very long time. And these are people that are coming in our doors for the very first time. There's a big difference. And I know that I need that. So if I need that, chances are they probably need that little buffer, that little buffer too.
You know, and it's funny you say that because like I feel like I need that even when I do class and, you know, I'll have, you know, and just as a purple belt, but it's like, you know, I'll have pretty new white belts in a lot of classes and they'll ask me questions or I'll roll with them and they'll ask, you know, like, what can I do better here? And man, if I haven't gotten a good couple of hard rolls in with somebody who's really challenging me, I'm like, ugh, like I don't know, dude. Like
Stop being a fucking white belt.
Yeah, right. Like, it's so hard. Like, Kevin, to try to just add you to the conversation, to add perspective, it'd be like you at your, like, you haven't been able to work out in like 3 days, and somebody comes up to you at the gym and they're like, man, how do you start a business? Well, where do I don't know. Like, there's so many. Like, what did I do wrong here? Like, man, you know what? Just keep focusing. Well, like, no, what should I have done in this situation? Like, dude, like, I'm sorry. Like, you're you're a really nice guy, but like you're just getting started. I promise it's just time. But like
Mad hours. You need mad hours. You
like,
need a lot of mad hours.
You flopped over on your stomach and like I don't know. Like there's like a lot, man. Like I don't know. I don't even know where to start. Like,
I did actually have someone at just a more commercial gym, just like last week or the week before. I was working out for the first time in like 3 days. And someone came up to me, and he's standing there, and I'm standing like in between my sets. And I finally like grab the cables, and I'm start my workout. And then he comes up to me and starts asking me a question. And I'm like, he looks newer and a little bit lost. So I set him down, and he's just like, hey, he's like, what all does this gym have here? I'm like, man, like, just about everything, dude. It's got like this location definitely has a big variety. Like, I think it's pretty good. And he's like, I'm like, it's got about everything. He's like, okay, well, what all does it not have? And I'm like, oh man, dude.
Yeah, it's like
you're asking the wrong bro.
Yeah,
right.
It's like, hey man, I don't actually work here. Like, let me go find the guy that actually runs this place.
Right.
Like, he'll answer all your questions.
Well, it's just so funny because like jiu-jitsu thing, and I'm like, man, like I like to explain what you did wrong. Like, I don't even know if I can get it to a language that's gonna like make sense. But it's like,
yeah, that's a challenge for sure.
And it's like, but if I've gotten those couple of good hard rolls in, or if it's like the end of your workout and you're like, oh, okay, and it's like, you know what, man, fuck it, I'll show you around.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, you have like a much more like I've been able to get my exertion. I've been able to kind of scratch the itch I needed to. Where now it's like, man, like walking you through like some different scenarios or what you did good and what you didn't do, what you could have done better, I guess, is like it is a whole lot easier. It is.
Well, you know, I definitely know exactly 100%. And I made the joke, and stop being a fucking white belt.
Yeah.
But I want to be clear. I'm of the opinion that white belts are really the most important people on the mats.
Yeah.
And I mean that wholeheartedly. And people think that I'm fucking around when I say that, but you know, as somebody that really loves to teach jujitsu, I really love teaching this art. And without white belts, I don't have anybody to teach.
Right.
Like,
right.
there's no school. The school doesn't exist without white belts.
That's right.
And without people signing up, without new people, without that guy that comes in and thinks that this is sorcery because it doesn't make sense until you've done it for, 5-10 years. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And, you know, I start off every class. And I think, Thomas, you've been to one of my classes, so you've probably heard me say it, but I start off every class by telling everybody that came, you know, first and foremost, thank you for being here. I love what I do. I love teaching this art almost more than anything else I do in life. And without the people that show up to learn, I don't get to teach. So without the white belts, I don't get to be a professor. I don't get to be an instructor. I don't get to teach. And so those people really are the most important people on the mat. But there are times when I really do just need to get a good hard roll out of the way before I'm prepared to really invest my mental energy into what they need out of me. And so it's not that I just have disdain for doing what I'm doing. It's that I really want to give you a good answer.
It's like I have to take care of myself before I can take care of you.
Absolutely. The oxygen mask goes on first. Right.
But for real, and as funny as that is it. It's
like
100%. I've got to like, man, like let me get a couple of good rolls in, and then man, I'll be back over here. We'll catch a roll, and man, I'll walk you through why committing too much to this side was the bad idea. Like why, and give you examples and coach you actually through this. But it's like right now, man, I just gotta get my ass beat or beat some ass, and like until that happens, I'm gonna lose my mind.
The fact that you guys recognize that, you know how to prepare yourself to be most capable to help the white belts, it shows a lot of like, I think some people would look at it of like, oh, you're not just ready all the time. It's like, no, but like, just like anything, I have to prepare myself for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing is, we were that guy. that's the beauty of jujitsu is you have to suck at first.
Mm.
Nobody walks it through the door and is good. Like
Mhm.
nobody. No, there is nobody
Doesn't
that has
exist.
ever taken the mat for the first time. And
I
was
thought
like,
it was going to be good.
oh yeah, so did I, man. Like
Yeah.
I just told you, I thought for sure I was going to go in and roll everybody at Apex, and I got my ass beat by a 15-year-old.
I thought I'll probably get a stripe my first night.
Oh yeah, for sure had that thought.
Yeah.
I'm a month out from my blue belt for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it might I might just start at blue. I'm so good.
for real. 5-6 years in, and I'm like, I don't even have a stripe yet.
And
what
then
the fuck?
this little 5 foot man, probably 215-pound little Asian lady, Ha Bui, shout out to you, Ha, beat the brakes off of me. Oh man, she mopped the mats with me that day, and I still see her. I just saw her the other day. I did that Andrew Tackett seminar over at Conquest.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And Ha was up there, and I love seeing Ha, and I'm like, you were my first role. You were my first jujitsu experience.
Wow.
And I'm like, and you beat me down. And I have been addicted since.
Yeah, we all need that ass whooping out of the gate.
And it's so funny because, like, again, like I kind of felt like in a similar thing. Like I've done a lot of security. I've done a lot of I've done a lot of like different stuff with that where I've had to like handle myself in situations.
Absolutely.
And it's like, okay, and I'm a big guy, like whatever. And then I see this like the sweetest, like just smiling, hey, and then like come to find out she's like, hitting the podium at like Masters Pans, and you're like,
no, she's an assassin.
Yeah, and you're like,
she's definitely an assassin.
And you're like, okay, cool, and I'm like, yeah, but like, come on, and then no, didn't have a chance.
You guys say no one's ever been good their first time, but I've never gone yet.
Kevin, we actually have a surprise. We brought Max, and Jason and I are gonna kick the shit out of you.
I've got just enough whiskey in me to make this interesting.
Move the table, keep the camera rolling.
Fuck the mats. Let's just go.
That's my favorite thing right now is to invite coworkers to jujitsu.
Oh man.
Come on out. Will
Don't
came.
do that. Don't do that to them.
Will came.
Don't do that. Everybody needs to do it.
I was like, come on out. Just do a class.
Yeah,
just
it's
do
free
a class.
trial.
It'll be great. It'll be and they're like, what? It's a good time, man.
Yeah.
Man, one thing you talked about, I think we're probably coming up on 2 hours, which is crazy. I don't know.
Over.
I don't know what time we started. We don't have Ryan. We're lost without him.
We don't need him.
I'm here for as long as you guys will have it. This is a fucking blast.
This has been fun, man. One thing you talked about is obviously Jim's doing well and potentially having to set a cap on the amount of people that you're bringing in, man. I got to assume that there's potentially even a benefit to that. I feel like if people find out there's limited spots at your gym and you have to like get approved to get into your gym, almost like creates like this more of a want to be there though.
Well, I would think so. At the end of the day, it probably does. Like everybody has that desire for that one, that sought after thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we have a small school. It's myself, my son, and one other instructor. And I want to make sure that we can devote as much effort as is required to each individual student. We have a small school. I think total square foot is like 3,000 square foot, and our mat space is just a little over 1,000 square foot. So, we don't have the room that some of these bigger facilities have, and we're already running 7 classes a day some days.
Wow.
And so, at the end of the day, we had a really small adults class tonight, and that really small adults class was 20 people. That's a small class for us now. And so what I never want to have happen is that we just take so many members that we can't service them, we can't give them. So for me, while it probably does have a little bit of that, aspect to it, for me, it's about integrity. And so we operate on 4 fundamental principles at the school, and we teach this from tiny kids up. And it's discipline, respect, consistency, and integrity. Those are the 4 fundamental principles that we operate on. And we tell everybody that our integrity is the most important because we have to have the other 3 to have integrity, right? So integrity is what binds our principles together. And so for me, it's a point of, I could sell I could sell 200 members.
Mhm.
I could sell that all day long for sure. Can I service 200 members?
Mhm.
And if I can't service 200 members, how the fuck am I going to take money from 200 people?
Yeah.
Like just personally. And could I make more money if I did it that way? Maybe in the short term, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not in this for this year.
Yeah.
I'm not in this for next year.
Amen.
I'm
Right.
in this for I'm in this for the guys that are going to someday leave my school and start a school and be my first affiliate. That's what I'm in this for.
Hell yeah.
I'm in this for the black belt that hasn't even started training yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this for the 4-year-old that's going to be a green belt on his 16th birthday and get his blue belt and go on to do God knows what. You know, that's what I'm in this for.
Yep.
So for me, it's not about that. And I'm sure that it does have that kind of, oh, we're running out of space. You know, you're not going to get it. I'm sure that is a selling point. But at the end of the day, that's just not the point.
It's a byproduct to what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not the reason that
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah.
it in the first place.
Well, it's funny, you know, because even like for us, it's like, could I cashier somebody when they come in the store?
Yeah.
Like, sure, I could give them like a bare minimum experience.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And we could do that, and we'd have, sure. Could I check out more people if that's all I did? Like, yeah, I could, you know, and it might make us potentially more money in the short term. In the long term, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? Because like nobody gives a crap about us. We have no loyalty. We have no relationship with our customer base. We have nothing then.
By the way, I have shopped at your store, and that is not what you get. Like, you don't get just a cashier experience. You get somebody is going to come over and answer your questions and help you with every.
Right.
So kudos to you guys, because
Thank you.
I've been in other stores where all you do get is a cashier experience, and you better have done your own market research before you walk through the door, because you're not going to know what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
Seriously.
But that's
like,
part, you know,
kudos.
and same to you, man, because that's like, it's, you know, there are the gyms out there, you know, anywhere, not naming anybody specifically, but it's like there's gyms everywhere that it's like all they care about is their member numbers.
Well, yeah, that's the big dojo numbers. You know, the McDojo model. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
And whatever, you know, those guys, they make better money than I do. Big fucking deal. I make better fighters than they do.
Yeah. Right. Well, and you and this is the thing that I think we had a really unique opportunity to kind of see firsthand, especially during COVID, was we saw customers willing to sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
Right? Like it wasn't just like, and that's the thing is it's like, yeah, you might not have as many members, but like your members will fight for you. Your members will bleed
100%.
for you. Your members will sweat tears for you, anything for you. Know what I mean? And that's the difference.
Yeah, we don't have an attrition rate.
Right.
We don't.
Right.
Most schools they have to balance their new signups against their cancellations every month. We don't.
Right.
Like if we have a cancellation, it's for a reason. I know about it. I knew about it, and I'm.
It's not a surprise.
No, and man, I think. Honestly, since we've started, I think we've processed 4 cancellations in the year.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because we really do. Like, this is something I am going to toot my own horn on at. Like, we really pour into our members. Like, we're not just there for you on the mat. Like, you could call me at any time. And if I find out that you're struggling with something and I have the ability to fix it, I'm going to fucking fix it.
Yeah.
Like right then, like whatever it is, even if it's as simple as going to lunch, like I'm going to do whatever it takes because you matter because you're not just, you know, this number of attrition.
Right.
Like to me, when I tell people that we're selective about the members we take, I tell people like this, I really, 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 really fear for the future of this country. I really do. And I don't know how much longer we have left. Now, the people that are at my school that I have offered memberships to, they're all people that I would rely on in a post-apocalyptic world. Like they're all people that I would believe in.
Yeah.
And that I would expect to believe in me and that I would expect to rely on me. So that goes like, why would I wait for the apocalypse for that relationship to exist?
Yeah, right. Well, and it's, you know, it's funny because even drawing parallels again back to Triad is it's like people are always like, gosh, do you guys have turnover? And we're like,
Not really.
nah, not really.
Nah.
Yeah, no, not really. Like we're adding people a lot. We're hiring people pretty frequently, and not to say people go on to do other things, but it's like
we were counting the other day, and we have more current employees than we've had people leave in the 8 years we've been in business.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's amazing. That's
right.
that's very telling of the culture. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you guys. That's
it's
beautiful.
and I think again, like I think that comes from Kevin and myself, Anthony, Preston, like whoever, Alyssa. Like I think we have a respect and an understanding, kind of like talking back to what we were talking about earlier. Is it's like we understand that these people could be doing other things. Like they are highly qualified people, and if like we don't respect and appreciate that fact, like we will lose them.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and we need to like be constantly finding opportunities for them to express that ability. And if we lose their drive to express that ability, we lose them. And it's like if we aren't constantly finding new ways to challenge these employees who have this insane ceiling or are that are 19 years old and are killing it and are on 20 years old, like guys born in 2003 winning awards and doing these things that it's like, how big of an asshole I was when I was 20.
Oh, dude, I was worthless.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I couldn't, I would have gotten fired from this job so fast. And it's like, and these guys are just killing it. And so like, I think having that like positive, healthy respect for their ability and be constantly looking for like, what more? Like when we talk about delegating, it's like, man, we almost have to keep these people invigorated and interested.
Well,
and it's
you
like,
got to give them something to do.
Yeah, we got to keep them going. And I think, if we didn't have that mindset, it'd be really easy to lose these people to just different opportunities, I guess is the best way to put it. It's like just to be doing something, different because they have the option to be doing that.
Yeah. Well,
we are over 2 hours, so
okay.
The time flies
it
crazy.
Goes so fast.
This one especially flew. Like I was
holy crap!
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't even get to tell you all my degeneracy and all the shit I did in my younger days. My God, dang!
We'll have to have you back on. Man.
Hey, I would love that. This has been a blast.
So much fun.
Yeah, someday I'll tell you guys about the time I jumped off of a chimney on a 2-story house into a 3-foot wading pool. Well, we're gonna save that.
Yeah, we'll save that.
Yeah. I'm excited for that one, man. Well, man, is there anything that you would like to share as we're kind of finishing this off of anybody that might have interest in your gym, of if it's a right fit for them, if they are interested, how to reach out to you?
Yeah, hey man, the easiest way to get with us is on Facebook, Black Flag Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or actually I think on Facebook it's Jean Jacques Machado Mustang Black Flag Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our website is blackflagok.com. On Instagram, we're just Black Flag Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or at Black Flag _BJJ. So hit us up on any of the socials. There's always somebody watching that. We're always looking for, the next good member. Like just because we're selective doesn't mean we're, exclusive.
Yeah,
like, we want you to come in and give us a shot. We want to know you. We only try to weed out the assholes.
Yeah,
so if you're an asshole, don't even try. But
that's why I'm not welcome back. So.
No, you're the kind of asshole we welcome back. All right, select kind of.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. Yeah, no. So hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Instagram, check out the website. I've got the phone on me pretty much all the time. It's 296-3311, area code 405-296-3311. If nothing else, just call me and have a conversation. Shit, I don't care if it's 7 o'clock in the morning. If I'm not teaching a class, I'll talk at you. We'll find something to do.
Yeah.
Man, this has been fun,
dude. Just to kind of go through a little bit of my thoughts. Obviously, getting to hear this conversation or have this conversation with you for a second time, man, it still blows me away. Just talking to you about it, hearing this story, hearing, again, not just the resilience of kind of what you went through to this being a story of victory and not of defeat is super inspiring. And again, reminds me every day, to appreciate the things in my life that I love even more. My fiance, the things that I have, the life that I have, the path that I've chosen, and the blessings that I have are immense. And, I think your story is not just a reminder of mortality, but it's also a reminder of blessings that are surrounding me on a day-to-day basis. And so after our first conversation, I think, or for our conversation that we had at the gym, just thinking to myself, like, man, I could talk to this guy every day. Like, I think it was something that just helped light a fire in me, that, it's just different. It's different than, just a career-based thing or just a relationship-based thing. It's just kind of a life thing. And man, I don't have enough good things to say about you. Like, every conversation we've had has been awesome. I know a ton of your members. We have a lot of your members that shop with us, and they
all say very good things about you.
Oh man, they all say wonderful things about you, and that's the thing, is it's really cool getting to have more and more conversations with you, because I can just tell that this is who you are, and you're very real, and you're a very straightforward guy. But like you have some great perspective on not just life, but obviously experiences that are crazy. And so getting to talk to you, man, is always just a true pleasure of mine. And
I appreciate that.
And having you on here and you getting to kind of tell your story has been awesome. Super, super awesome. And man, again, I can't thank you enough for coming, or just thank you enough for being the person that you are, because like you're inspiring people and pouring into people that, even communicate to me outside of, the walls of your gym, of like how important Black Flag and you and your family are to them. And so, man, just keep doing what you're doing, because you're making a difference for sure. And it's fun to watch.
Man, I appreciate that. And I will just say, I hope that the story is not just, a reminder of our own mortality, but I really hope that what I've experienced over the last year is a reminder of our life. I said something the other day, and I want to kind of cap this all off, but not this Sunday or not this weekend, but next weekend, I'm going down to the Jiu-Jitsu World League finals. And I know it's not the IBJJF Worlds, but it is the finals for that organization, and it is a big tournament. And I did just learn to walk again. And I'm going to go compete.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to go do this thing.
Fuck yeah.
And I've been cutting weight, and I've been doing all these things, and I'm living.
Yeah.
I'm living. I want that to be, we're
You're
all
no
going to,
here.
No. I didn't beat death. I lived life.
Yeah.
I lived life through a really difficult time, and it rewarded me.
Yeah.
And I hope that people hear that. And at the end of the day, we all have somebody that's, waiting for us to fail, but we also have somebody that's rooting for us to succeed. And I would challenge every single son of a bitch out there to put those people that are waiting for you to fail out of your mind completely, and to do whatever it is you're doing for the people that are rooting for you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, I know Thomas was excited about this one. He texted me right after he talked to you, and he's like, "We got to have this guy on the podcast."
Man,
so
that means the world to me.
I was excited myself, man. And it's not often that you get Thomas and I just sitting here listening for an hour straight.
That
so,
was amazing.
man, I enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you so much for spending the evening with us. And
I appreciate you guys having me. It was a pleasure to meet you guys.
Yeah,
meet you, Kevin.
And it was a pleasure.
See you again, Thomas.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you as well. And man, I'm really happy that you enjoyed it yourself. And thank you so much for sharing. I know I enjoyed it, and I'm sure everybody that's listening now will enjoy it as well.
And thank you for including me in this. This whiskey is absolutely awesome. I'm gonna tell you right now, whatever this is, it's good, guys. Buy this. Holy shit.
That's another part of it's the hard to find. So it's extra
good luck
good.
finding it, suckers.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Wow, I appreciate it.
Well, dang. So, all right, episode 30 something? I don't know, 64.
107.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Right. So, again, Jayson Dedmon down at Black Flag Jiu-Jitsu in Mustang. Hit him up and check him out. And as always, guys, we appreciate you. So this is a blast.
Yep.
So
thanks for
Appreciate
watching.
you.
All right, see you guys.
Take it easy.